Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.
All right, welcome. We are live with Brenna Harper with Land Title to talk about our real estate stats. What made up January's market here in the Denver metro area? What were the stats that back up what we're feeling in this market? So, Brenna, there's some big news in your world as it relates to your job with Land Title. There's a new little role for you, a new position as it was.
Yeah. Yes, as of Monday, I have taken on the role of sales manager. So, new position for me, a little bit of a shift. So, super excited about the opportunity, and yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, and I'm sure that role has 100% to do with your involvement here, giving us the real estate
Yes,
stats.
absolutely.
I'll take full credit for all of it.
Yeah.
No, so very proud of you, right? You do a lot. You contribute a lot to the company. They're very blessed to have you. So excited for you in that role as sales manager, helping to develop and create some more awesome people just like you.
Well, thank you. Completely unbiased person.
I'm 100% biased. Now, it doesn't mean I'm wrong, right?
Well, that's true.
You were about to say no, Matt. That doesn't make it true, but 100% it is. So let's talk about January's numbers in real estate, and I'm looking at kind of the hit sheet, right, the highlights, and I'm seeing the detached homes sold for an average of $53,000 more than the same time last year.
Yeah, let me share my screen here with you.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's we're going out of order a little bit here, but we'll just jump right in. Yeah, so this is our highlight reel. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, to Matt's point here, the fourth bullet point down, detached single family homes sold for an average of $53,000 more than this time last year, which is pretty incredible. If we think back to last month, we did kind of a year-end review, and our year-over-year, our year-to-date data showed that we had about 19% appreciation across Denver Metro, and in a lot of areas, six-figure appreciation as far as the equity in their home, or how much their homes have increased in value. So this is a little bit smaller than that six-figure number we've been talking about, but for January, which is typically quite a bit slower, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's a large number there for the percentage of increase. Pretty astronomical when we see that increase. Now, you and I have talked about this several times, and we'll probably continue to talk about it. I'm just going to wait for the market to crash, or I'm going to wait and save up more money so I can get a better deal.
Yeah.
Well, if you were saving, I hope you were able to save $55,000 so that you could be, about $1,600 further ahead.
Yeah. It's inventory has been the conversation for a long time. And it's just unfortunately getting tighter and tighter. So something I wanted to share here, I talk a lot about the difference between active listings and new listings, because I think a lot of times they're bunched into one conversation. So people say inventory is low, no homes are coming on the market, no one wants to sell. And those are not mutually exclusive. So this one we're looking at here is active listings. 2019 being the last normal year that we talk about is that green color, and then 2021 last year is red, and then that tiny little blue dot at the very, very bottom, unfortunately, is where we started out January. So we're very, very, very low in active inventory. But the thing that is a little bit different than what we have seen and no help to our situation is the new listing data. So we're down 18% year over year. So active inventory is how many homes we have on the market at any given day. So this report we're looking at right now, we pull on the first of the month. So February 1st, there were 1,086 homes on the market. So today it could be a little bit higher, a little bit lower. So that number fluctuates, but it's our supply. It's how many homes we have on the market. The new listings is how many homes total have come on the market in the month of January, which was 3,300. So if we look at this data, this has been the most consistent or on trend with what we're typically seeing. 2020, 2021, they have really broken all of our nice little trends that we've gotten used to seeing. But new listings have been really consistent. We've just had such a deficit of active listings that we can't catch up. So the thing I don't like about this is it's lower. It's now going below the trend, which is not what we need. So it means that less people, 18% less people put their home on the market in January this year than last year. So that is not helping our overall inventory issue that we have. So we fully anticipate that this number is going to continue to go up. It always does, as you see, it's this curve. But people definitely hibernated for a longer amount of time after the holidays. We had that spike in Omicron. It took people out a little bit more. People were a little more cautious, pulled back. So that probably has something to do with it. So hopefully with things seeming to be a little bit more under control in that way, with some mask mandates being lifted, and people feeling a little bit more comfortable, hopefully they're ready to put their homes on the market, because we definitely have the buyers. And we'd love to see this new listing come back up to what we're used to, or even better yet, above that, so we can catch up a little bit more.
Yeah, and I look at some of these and I figure, okay, as long as we can stay away from the extremes, life becomes a little bit easier. So
Yeah,
even though we're lower, what I don't want to see is next month that number just spike right up and it's way above. Right? Let's get rid of the peaks and valleys to some degree, and just get a normal-ish S curve. Now we say normal market 2019. For those that are watching, and we weren't doing these videos in 2019, although I wish I was. The normal market then was still a pretty extreme seller's market.
yeah,
Gosh, we haven't been in a balanced market for quite some time. It's just been more balanced than what we're seeing right now. So even more of an extreme seller's market still, right? But yeah, good to see that people are still putting their homes on the market. 18% sounds like a big number. We'll see as we go through the year, but I'll guess we're going to see about the same number of homes come on the market and get sold in 2022.
yeah. Well, and we have to remember, we've talked about this before, the percentages look bigger when you're dealing with small numbers. So a little bit of an increase or a little bit of a decrease when you have a small number makes the percentage of the overall number bigger. So yes, 18% seems like a lot, but we're not dealing with a lot. So it's going to feel a little bit more extreme. So just something to keep in mind.
You touched on one thing here before we go on, that you pull the active homes on the same day of the month every month, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So that number is going to be plus or minus, also depending on the day of week that homes go active. Monday and Tuesday are probably the lower numbers during the week for active homes. You start to see most homes come on the market Thursday or Friday as people get into the weekend. So, if the first happens to fall on a Friday, you're probably going to see a larger number. And that may not necessarily mean that we've got a whole lot more homes to choose from than if that first falls on a Tuesday, when inventory levels might be at their lowest.
Yeah, very, very, very true. And then as we're looking at this greater metro report, this one is not pulled on the first. We pull it about 6 business days after the first. So as we go through this, you'll see, I can even come down here. Active inventory numbers are a little bit different on this day. So they're up to 1,100. So about 100 more than we had on the first. And again, this is just a snapshot of for active listings of that one day, but we're consistent in when we pull it. So it's not a surgical exact science as far as that number. It's that number is a moving target, but it gives us a good idea of the trends of where we're going, of kind of what's happening in the market. Pending or under contract and sold, those are more set numbers because that is for the whole month. That's what happened. So those numbers do not fluctuate.
Yeah, month supply of inventory decreased to 0.22 of a month.
Yeah, 6 days.
6 days.
Yeah, 6 days. I did the math. So
we got to start measuring this in hours. It might be a little bit more palatable.
Yeah. So month supply of inventory, and I'm going to pop down here so we can see it a little bit. We'll just bounce around a little more than we normally do today. So month supply. Okay. So what Matt was talking about is 2019 was more of a normal market. And you can look here, January of 2019, there was about just over a month and a half of inventory. So to be considered balanced, so equal opportunity for seller and buyer, we're sitting between like 4 to 6 months, closer to 4 months in the Denver market. So even in January of 2019, when things felt a lot more even keeled, we were still about half of what we needed to get to that balanced market. So, you know, I've said this a lot over the past couple of years, but it's all relative as far as how fast, how slow, month to month. And then we zoom out big picture and it's like, oh man, we're like super speedy compared to this, even though we're maybe up or down month over month. So yes, extreme sellers market, even more so than we were before. And so how you interpret this graph is if the same number of buyers stayed in the market and the same number of active listings. So if we just froze that in time, how long would it take for us to deplete our inventory? So with this, it would take 6 days. And obviously that's not enough. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. Another thing to look at too, as we talk about zooming out, if we want to zoom in, bottom left-hand corner is our counties. So then you can see month supply of inventory down to the county level, and then what they have done month over month, year over year, as far as if they're trending up or down. So, you know, we talk about averages, we talk about Greater Metro Denver, which is the 7 metro major counties or major metro counties. But Jefferson County and Adams County are different stories, and different price points can be different stories. So if you're thinking about your neighborhood or you're thinking about where you want to live, and especially when we get into average price point and that number, you're just like, whew, there are options. There are spaces that things are a little bit different. So take this with a grain of salt. This bird's eye view that we talk about at the 7 counties is really just the overall feel and temperature of the Denver market. But to be specific about your individual buying or selling experience, you have to go more local. So I know there's a lot of headlines. I know there's a lot of stuff on social media, and it can be really terrifying and off-putting. But just ask different questions. Let's take a deeper dive. Don't be scared away by some of these, you know, flash sale numbers, because it is incredibly competitive. You are going to be paying a premium, and you're going to be making an incredible return on your investment and have some great equity in your home. So it's kind of double-edged sword.
Yeah, and for some of us, right, who don't always read the news paper, right, or the news articles, don't watch the TV news, some of the places that we're getting information are the real estate agent friends that we have, and understand that there's this trend that's going on where real estate agents are kind of boastfully sharing what's going on, that oh my gosh, this market's so crazy. We had 87 offers and 400 showings in a weekend. And understand that is happening, right? It's not false information, but no. It's not every property is in that realm. And don't let that entirely scare you out of getting into the buyer's market. And for some sellers, right, that can be overwhelming to think about. Gosh, I'm gonna have that many people coming through. Understand that all of this can be managed around expectations and what you need as a buyer or seller to ultimately accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. As a general rule, if the house is brand new to the market and it doesn't look overpriced, it's probably going to get overpriced with how it gets bid up, right? But if you look at the market, you look at the house that's on, and it's been on for a week, and it looks like a bad deal, right? It looks like why would somebody pay that for that? That might actually be your better deal to get because you don't have to go that far over to get it.
Yeah. And, I think a better, or I don't know, I would prefer to hear more stories of, this buyer bought last January and it was competitive, but they had less competition than the middle of the summer because it was January. And they still 1 year later have $53,000 worth of equity in their home just for paying their mortgage payment. So yes, you paid, and yes, you have gained quite a bit in a short amount of time.
Yeah. And for those that are watching on this, and I think I've mentioned it a couple of times, I believe I mentioned it last video that I did with Mitch, is if you bought and didn't have enough down to get out of mortgage insurance, reach out, talk to your lender. You may have enough equity today to get out of paying mortgage insurance, and that money goes right back to your pocket. So make that phone call. May not cost you anything unless you have a loan program that you have to refinance out of, and it still may be a big benefit for you to do so.
Yep. Okay, let's do this one since we always do. This is our market snapshot, detached and attached combined. So green is active, blue is pending or under contract, and red is sold. So this one really just shows us the relationships and the correlations between all of these metrics. So again, if we're looking back at 2019 and even kind of the shift that happens in the middle of 2020 is we are in an extremely competitive market because the green line went below the blue and the red line. So yes, we were low on inventory at 10,000 homes, peaked out in 2019, where we should have been closer to like 20,000, but we're still above the blue and the red line. So in the middle of 2020, people truly are not putting their homes on the market because they don't want people in their houses. They don't know what's going on in the world. And we lose some of that buildup of inventory that we had, and you see it come back down. And that's really when this extremely volatile seller's market started. So that's kind of what you want to see here. The pending or the blue you can see popped up in January. So we would anticipate that the solds would follow that. So solds being a lagging indicator, once the homes go under contract, most of them will be sold. So again, with that cyclical nature, we would anticipate that both the blue and the red line would continue to start their upward climb this month in February. And then obviously we're hopeful that that green line will follow suit. And to Matt's point, we don't want it to be a 14er straight up, but a nice aggressive curve would not be a bad thing as far as the active listings go.
Yeah, 6,000 homes on the market would still be a seller's market and still feel a bit rushed, but it won't feel like we're in a top fuel dragster, going that fast. We might just be in a normal car chugging along, breaking the speed limit kind of deal. But 6,000 homes still puts us at 2019 numbers, right? Which was still a seller's market, still a healthy seller's market at that.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is detached and attached. Again, depending on what you're looking for, this is the detached market broken out. So looks pretty similar. And then attached market is a little bit less severe, although it stayed pretty strong as well. But just again, depending on where you're looking, get as specific as you can with the data provided. We've talked a lot about active listings, but you can see, obviously, as Matt was talking about, we were at 6,000 homes in 2020 of January of 2020, and now we're under 1,200. So that little bit of an increase, even though technically a seller's market, would feel really nice. And then again, if you look over here on the left-hand side, you can see the different markets. Also keep in mind the size of the markets. Broomfield County is a lot smaller. So yeah, they only have 23, which is still nothing. But it's a lot smaller than like Jefferson County or Adams County. So keep that in mind when you're looking at it. And especially when we go, let's see here. This is combined. So detached, let me pull down to attached. So Denver County, if we look down here, is at 211. So all these other numbers are just itty bitty tiny and attached. And then you have Denver at 211. So that seems like, oh my gosh, there's so much inventory in Denver. Comparatively, there is, but we're still down 33% month over month and 73% year over year. So it's still an incredibly competitive market. However, Denver County in the attached space has been kind of the most all over the place and the slowest to rebound from COVID. There's also, some increased homelessness and drug issues that have come off of the wave of COVID that are playing into some of that, with Denver going up and down. But we still have a lot of great traffic here. But if you look at it comparatively, if you're looking to buy a condo in downtown Denver, you may have slightly less competition or slightly more options, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, so it is one of those subsects here in our market that is moving a little bit slower. So, when we hear the flash sales and the way over, it's not happening to the same degree at the attached market in Denver County like it is for a detached home in Jefferson County.
And, again, now that things have loosened up a little bit, things are opening, I would anticipate Denver to recover again. It's not horrible, but comparatively it's moving a little bit slower, has a little bit more active inventory. But as people like to be outside, they like to enjoy Denver and patios and rooftops and all of that kind of thing. So as we get into spring and summer, I would anticipate that would continue to bounce back.
Yeah, agreed. It's still moving quick. It's still good. People still want to be in Denver County in the attached markets for sure.
Yep. So days in MLS or days on market is talking about the speed of the market. So something we've touched on kind of this Q4 is things are super competitive, but we still have that seasonality of things slowing down a little bit. So 19 days is up 2 days from December and up quite a few days, 9 days from July, which was our most competitive month as far as speed. And if you look back to the last several years, we're still a lot slower. But what this tells me is there's some seasonality involved. There's some buyer fatigue involved, but there's also buyers that are educated on what the market's doing and what these small changes are doing for them. So they know that there's less competition. They know that December, January, that holiday lull, that things move a little bit slower. So they move a little bit slower. A lot of people, if they had their choice to move around the holidays or in the middle of summer when everything is nice and there's no snow on the ground, would pick summer. So you have a lot of very motivated buyers in the winter months, but you just have less of them. The interesting thing with days in MLS is this is an average. I think this is great for, again, looking at the trend, but it doesn't totally speak to what we're actually feeling. If we look at the median number, that's 5 days. So that feels a lot more in line with what we're feeling, that yes, this home is going to go on the market and most likely be gone by Monday or Tuesday. If you tell me as a buyer that 19 days is the average, then I'm very confused as to why you're telling me I have to go during lunch the first day this property is available to look at the home. So, just kind of understanding the different numbers and what they mean. But for this one, I think that median number, that middle number of 5, paints a better picture of the true speed of what we're dealing with.
Well, and we had touched on this before. the ratio of good homes that are selling fast and the homes that they were on the market last month, right? They'll probably be on the market next month because they're overpriced, or whatever the case may be, right? The not awesome homes. If that ratio gets out of balance, that'll skew the average days on market because you're going to have fewer of the good properties going fast and still the same number of properties that are dragging their heels, so to speak. Or maybe it's a unique opportunity, right? It's something that, yes, it's listed here, but it's something that's going to need the be scraped and rebuilt, right? So those homes that are still in that scenario could be a good deal, but just waiting for the right kind of buyer, right? So I think that skews that and lengthens that average days on MLS.
Yeah, great point. Matt, I'm hearing a clicking from you.
I'm probably fidgeting. It's
Stop
probably
fidgeting.
You heard it here live. I'm getting scolded by Brenna.
Yeah, they all hear it too. They don't want to hear it. Okay, so this is active and sold by price range. So this just really breaks it down by specific price bracket. How many homes are on the market versus how many are being sold. So something interesting to keep an eye on this year is where things are happening. So right now our interest rates are still fairly low. We had one hike. The economists are saying probably another one in June. They can do up to 4. Most of what I've heard is said that they probably won't, but I do not have a crystal ball. That's just what I'm hearing. But if interest rates go up, buying power goes down. So I'm sure that Matt and Mitch have talked about that before. If you have questions, definitely that's a different conversation. But even if the prices of the home stay exactly the same, which they're not going to, they're going to continue to go up. The higher the interest rates, the lower your buying power. So right now, our average price point is close to right around above, depending on where you're at, 700,000. So the fact that the majority of the homes, are not the majority, but the largest number bracket is that 600,000 to 800,000 makes sense. And it's also where the most number of homes are being sold. The interesting thing will be to see, depending on how much interest rates go up and how quickly things continue to increase, that's not keeping up with affordability. So does that mean that people are going to have to drop down their price point and now it's more in that $500,000 to $700,000 range? Is this going to drop? So it's not saying there's going to be less homes on the market. They might just be priced differently. So that would be something to take a look at and just keep an eye on as we go through the year to see how much those things are affected as far as pricing strategy, just for keeping up with what's going on with interest rates.
Yeah, as interest rates go, it's going to affect the affordability at a greater rate. And the number to know is 1% change in the rate equals 10% of the value of the home. So those who are waiting for that market to crash, if I've got a $700,000 home and I wait for the market to crash, it crashes theoretically and it drops to 630. So that was a 10% drop, but the interest rates went from 3 to 4. My mortgage is going to be the exact same.
Yeah.
So I'm going to end up paying the same amount for that house, even though I got a good deal and I bought it when it crashed. At the end of 30 years, when you add up all those payments, number came out to the same.
Yep.
Right. So for sellers, for homeowners, understand that rates are going to impact what you can get for the home. Because if I'm looking at 700, that means that I was approved about a 700. For some reason, we always want to shop towards the max of what we were approved for. Whole nother discussion, right? So if now they go up by that 1%, now I'm only approved to 630. Well, now I can't buy your house. I'm going to have to buy a different house, or, right, we have to competitively adjust our expectations for price.
Yeah. And, as we talk about this, I've had some questions around what do you think the overall appreciation in the market is going to be this year? We talked about last year, it was at about like 18, 19%. Historically, the national average is 4%. So we're obviously way above that. I honestly don't even think it's going to drop to 4 or 5%. I think it'll still be more than likely with the conditions in the market that we have right now, probably still double digit, but maybe closer to that like 10% instead of almost 20%. So again, some relativity there. And I don't know, that's just an educated guess as far as appreciation goes, but we're still with the lack of inventory, with supply and demand being so out of whack, you're still going to have a good investment in the home. There's just, it's all about like buying and selling micro changes in your strategy. So that's kind of what we're talking about as far as this goes.
Well, and I believe that if interest rates had maintained the same as they had been, the historic low, we'd be close, if not at 20% for 2022 appreciation. I think we're going to see that slow, mainly due to the interest rates and how that impacts payment. My guess, I think we're still going to be 12 to 13-ish percent, give or take. Now, let's flash forward to the end of the year. Let's go back to this. We'll just put a bookmark on this episode and say, how close was Matt at 12 to 13%? Again, I'm not an economist.
I'm being a little more conservative, but I'd rather be proven wrong and it be higher. So
yeah, I'm not an economist, right? Somebody smarter than me will probably refute that, but we'll see at the end of the year what it ends up doing. But that's kind of my prediction for it.
Yeah. So this is interesting too. This just shows you that there's quite a bit of wealth. Excuse me. In Colorado and coming into Colorado. So again, we talked about, let's just call it 4 for Denver being a balanced market. So that means up until the 3 million plus price point, you're in a seller's market. So that's pretty incredible. Typically what we see, even in like 2019, and granted, our prices have appreciated, so we're getting closer to that $1 million mark, which is why some of this has changed a little bit. But typically, when we get into that luxury market of like 1 million plus, it bounces back to that buyer's market. Things just sit on the market longer. But you can see here that even up to 2 million, we're only at about 2 weeks of inventory. So it's just pretty crazy. But there's a lot of people coming in from the coast. There's a lot of people that have all this equity in their homes. So there's a lot of money in Colorado, which is good for the economy, not great for affordability.
Yeah, and even at 3 months worth of inventory as a 3+, that's still for that market, still a seller's market. And if we were at, I remember looking at these graphs and that number being well into the double digits and being like, okay, that's balanced for that market. Keep in mind, there's fewer homes and fewer buyers that are in that price point.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and this just again breaks it down if you were attached or detached. I'm not going to talk about solds because we're only 1 month in. So average sold price, we kind of talked about this before. So this ebbs and flows, right? So people that are afraid of buying at the top of the market. If you bought at the top of the market in 2020, you're doing all right. If you bought at the top of the market in 2018, 2019, you're doing good. So the only place you would run into issues is if you potentially bought in June of 2021 and you had to sell today. There may be less appreciation or you may be more flatlined, just because even though we're going up at a pretty steep trajectory, we still have that seasonality of things coming back down and then going back up. So yes, we have come off of the peak of 2021, but we are very quickly going to surpass that and then have a new peak probably in the late spring, early summer months this year. So it's, yes, you may have bought at the top of the market, but that's not the market we're in anymore. And more than likely, you have a very good amount of equity in your home. So very normal for this time of year. We're about 2.5% down average price point or average sold price month over month. But our average sold price in Greater Metro on the whole is still $678. So this is where I was saying it can get a little bit scary or off-putting. Douglas County is at 823 as an average for detached single family. But if you look at Adams County, it's 543. So, I mean, that's still a healthy budget, but that's way different than even the average or Douglas County. So depending on where you're looking, it really makes a difference in the numbers. So just don't get tied into that blanket statement that you're seeing or feeling. Take a little bit of a deeper dive and there might be some different options for you.
Yeah, Real Estate 101, it's location, location, location. You can get a very comparable home in Adams County to Douglas County. And I'm talking about the home itself, not everything that's surrounding it, right? There's different schools, different views, all of those things, and why people want to live in Douglas and Jefferson County or Adams County, Elbert County, et cetera. But just understand that, hey, if I can expand where I'm looking a little bit, I might be able to get a lot more bang for my buck and get into the right property.
Well, and that's part of the reason that Thornton and Brighton and Commerce City are growing so quickly. We live in Thornton and there's so much construction as far as like new builds and, different commercial buildings and different things like that, because there's more land that way that people can actually build, but it is more affordable. So that trend will more than likely continue with where things are going, because there's only so far, there's not a whole lot of space comparatively in Arvada, because you're right up against the mountains there. So less space. And then obviously Arvada, Jefferson County, all very desirable, west side of I-25, all that kind of good stuff. So there's a lot of things to consider, but just know, depending on your situation and what's important to you, you do have options that have different price points associated.
Yeah, and in the Thornton area, right, we've got a Top Golf up there, and we're getting an In-N-Out burger that I think I saw something that opens up next week.
Big things happening.
I don't know how you feel about In-N-Out burger. I've had it. It's good. I'm certainly not waiting 2 hours to go anywhere to eat a cheeseburger.
No, I don't think In-N-Out's going to help our property values, but that'll be all right.
I mean, hey, if it does, it's got a cult following for sure.
That's true. Okay, so this is the last one we'll talk about. So this is percentage of sold to list price. So how much over or under the price that it was listed for did it sell for? So typically we would see this number for the last several years right at that like 98 to 99, depending on the type of time of year. And then at the peak selling season, spring, summer, it would graze that 100 and then come back down. 2021 just did its own thing. Obviously, conditions were very tight, and we skyrocketed up to almost 106% as a general average. That's not sustainable. Yes, some sellers cashed in big time, but that's, again, Matt, talking about the extremes. It's not good for anyone in the long run. So we want that number to come down. Now, it didn't come down as far as maybe we had hoped. And as you can see, it's already starting its upward turn. And with inventory being as tight, I anticipate that that's going to continue to go up. So even January, we're at 102.3% sold to list price, which is about 0.5%, 0.6% change month over month. So, we've been talking about to the buyers, hey, this is the least competitive time. Go, 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 go. Well, we're starting to turn that corner now. So it's obviously probably less competitive in January than it would be in February and so on and so forth. So you haven't completely missed the boat. But again, if you're waiting for it to be less competitive, I don't know that that's the best strategy. So I would expect this to go up to at least what it did last summer as far as competitiveness and homes sold over value or over list price.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We talked about this last month, and you and I both projected that that number is going to go up from what it was at the end of last year. And we
Yeah.
are probably going to be seeing that same spike, that mountain here in our list to sold price jumping the way that it did. It's trending that direction. We're just a month in, right? We're not exactly Nostradamus here, but both of us felt that that was what was going to happen.
Yeah. And, this is just something to keep an eye on. Because you want to, I like to use the analogy of like boogie boarding. You want to be in the wave. You don't want to be too far in front of it or too far behind it, or you're going to miss it. So as a seller, look at this, see where we're trending, see how aggressive you can be or not aggressive you can be, because you don't want to outprice the market. And even these small changes can make a little bit of a difference in your pricing strategy. And the data shows that your best chance of getting the highest and best is within that first 7 days. It's that first impression. So yes, it is a seller's market, but you still have to be mindful of what's happening in the market and understand that currently right now, January, we're not in the same market as May, June. So if your neighbor sold in May, June, and they had some astronomical price, we're a little bit different. You're still going to get a great price for your home, more than likely. And more than likely, you're still going to get over asking, but you need to price within the market that we're in now, not last month, not last quarter, not last year.
And their house that sold in May, that's a comp for where you were on
Yeah.
the price. So you're already standing on top of the mountain. You just may not get their number or your number plus the overage that they got when we had those on, right? I mean, that's such a massive swing. So,
and from the buyer's perspective, it kind of helps you understand what you're walking into. So, if you are thinking you can go in and buy a home on the first weekend that's turnkey, that's priced appropriately and staged nicely and pay list price, you might miss it. That might be wrong. So just understand so you can be playing the right game and not overgoing. On the buy side, you don't have to be as aggressive maybe as you did in May. So don't throw as too much at it. So just, something to keep an eye on, and this number is going to go up.
Yeah. If you want a deal, you got to find the property that nobody knows about. So it's off market. You get an opportunity there, or you're going to have to buy something that's undervalued by everybody else. And what I mean by that is the photos look just terrible, right? It looks cluttered and right. It's one of those, you look at it and you can almost smell the photo. Now, there may be some work that has to be done, but understand you're going to be buying the house. You're not going to be buying all the junk necessarily that the seller has in it, and you're not buying the bad photos that the agent may have taken with their cell phone, right? So if you find those opportunities, those are the ones maybe to jump onto if you're looking for a deal. If it's new to the market, smells nice, looks nice, turnkey ready, stage nice, be prepared. Everybody else wants the same thing, right?
Well, and truth be told, some of those houses that look like crap on the internet really aren't that bad. It's just the seller was like, oh, I can sell this home with my eyes closed and I don't need to do this. And I'm just going to take my iPhone pictures and not put away my laundry. And we're human beings. And if we had a choice, apples to apples, we're going to pick the home that looks staged with lighting that's appropriate, with things put away. So it doesn't always mean that you're walking into this massive project. It just could mean that the seller wasn't up to speed on what's actually going on in the market. And that's to your gain.
Yeah. Yeah, right. You and I were able to jump on an opportunity down in the Phoenix area, similar market conditions. Now they have more homes for sale because the population's bigger. Right? We were able to walk into a home where bad photos, right? There was a dog in one of the photos in the listing, in a picture of the stair rail. But hey, we walked into a better deal because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our real estate numbers for January here in the Denver metro area. We'll see. I think buckle up. I think we're in for a crazy ride. You can still absolutely get into a home this year if you're looking to buy. You could still absolutely 100% get your home sold, and make it just super easy, taking advantage of that route. So, any words of wisdom here, interpreting the market for either a buyer or a seller? Like if our neighbor came up to you and said, Brenna, you're amazing. I know you're in the real estate market. I'm thinking about buying or selling. What's your advice?
Buy now. Buy now. Or even if you're thinking about it, just talk to a lender so you're ready. I've had people come up and be like, oh, I really like this home, but they haven't been pre-approved and they're just not ready. And then they miss it. So, I think if you're waiting for the perfect wave, it's probably a ways out. But now is still a great time to buy. It's still a great time to sell. It's not easy and it's not cheap, but it doesn't mean it's a bad investment. So, if you're interested, if that's something that is needed or wanted in your life, talk to your lender, talk to Matt, ask the questions, get the local data. And, for as emotional as buying and selling can be, try to take some of that out of it. And that helps you feel a little bit more prepared, and a little less overwhelming as you're walking into this market on either side.
Yeah, there's a real need for a professional to help navigate this on both sides, right? To get set up to position yourself for success. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Well, again, Brenna, thank you for joining us and in talking through the numbers of January here for our real estate market. There's always so much value that we get. And of course, I share with you, but we do get people to reach out and like, hey, I was watching your guys' video. Thank you so much. It's really cool. So, Inland Title, right? Thank you for doing the hard work and putting the data together so that
Brenna I don't pull this data.
Yeah, Brenna and I just get to talk through it together and make more me than Brenna, make our predictions.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. So very appreciative of that. Hopefully it's valuable. If you have questions, reach out and ask, and we'll help however we can.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks, Brenna, and everybody. We'll catch you next month.
See you in March. How weird is that?
It's coming quick.
Yep.
All right.